Remember Willingham's quote on curiosity, that as human beings we are naturally curious, and this will prompt us to explore new ideas and problems. However, when we do this, we quickly evaluate how much mental work, and this is thinking and usually perseverance as well, to solve the problem. If it's too much or too little, very interesting that, we stop working on the problem if we can. So, from a cognitive scientific perspective, it's not necessarily the thinking itself that's motivating. In other words, you can get students to do a lot of thinking, but if they don't see any purpose in it and there's no sense of reward or satisfaction, they're not going to like doing it because it's damn hard work. So it's the reward, and that's the big word here, and it's very much tied into motivation, as we know, and the reward could be an intrinsic one, the feeling of personal accomplishment. Wow, I've actually achieved this, never thought I could do it. Or extrinsic motivators. At the end of the day, if one's worked terribly hard for an exam that one wants to pass, that's a big reward, and one feels very good about it, as Willingham points out. Now, this is a big quote, so do look at it very carefully and think about the pedagogic implications. We find successful thinking pleasurable. So that's really important. If we get students thinking in the tasks and activities we give them, yes, it must involve the types of thinking we want to develop, but we want to make sure that they're likely to achieve competence in the task so they get that nice feeling of accomplishment. So, we like solving problems and so forth, but we seek out opportunities that will pose some challenge but are solvable, because these are the problems that lead to those nice feelings of pleasure and satisfaction. If it's too easy, there's no great pleasure. If it's too difficult, we're not actually going to achieve the good feeling that we want. Now, in this second slide, we're going to look at the process of successful thinking. You will remember my model of thinking, which describes the types of thinking involved, and that's the way we think. We might be doing some critical thinking, analysing the situation, making inference interpretations, at some stage generating possibilities. But as we're using these types of thinking, there is an actual process of some key things that need to occur for our thinking activity to be successful. According to Willingham, there's four main factors. Information from the environment, and that's the stuff that we're learning. We could be reading a book, we could be listening to a lecture, whatever. It's information coming in from the environment. And obviously, when we learn something new, it's got to come from somewhere. Now, we know that long-term memory is such an important, perhaps the central cognitive structure, because that's where our prior knowledge is. And we know if we've got a lot of stuff in long-term memory, it's much easier to learn new stuff in that domain, because there's a lot of stuff that will immediately connect to it. So our facts in long-term memory and our procedures in long-term memory. And the last but very important factor is the space in working memory, and we know that working memory's got a limited capability. So providing we've got some good stuff in long-term memory, the information from the environment is manageable in long-term memory, then our long-term memory will do the thinking, because thinking occurs in long-term memory. If one of these factors is inadequate, then thinking's more likely to fail. And there's a nice little picture here. This probably captures it. Is a person really in a lot of trouble? Much too much information in the environment. We don't know what they've got in long-term memory, but certainly working memories in a spin. So, for a problem to be solved effectively, the thinker needs adequate information from the environment, and that's why as teachers, the way we chunk up information, present information, the way we support this thinking process is really crucial for successful learning, because we want to make sure that students do have sufficient room in working memory. And hopefully, if they're learning well, they will be building up good understanding the facts and procedures in long-term memory. So that's a basic summary of what it means to be thinking successfully and the kind of things that are going on inside of students' heads as they try to build understanding.